Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian, Pace reporting live here at the House of Swing, Jazz and Lincoln Center here in the heart of Columbus Circle, here in New York City. Over the last 14 years and over 730 episodes here on the Pace Report, I've been trying to keep my eyes, hands, and ears on the pulse of what's making Black American music thrive and making our language and our culture move forward. And tonight here on the Pace Report, I have the honor of introducing you to a South African pianist who not only by way of South Africa has taken his native folklore and his music, but also has been studying the rich tradition of jazz music. Nduduzo Makhathini's brand new record, In the Spirit of Ntu, is his second for the famed Blue Note Records label. Now, he's the first South African artist to sign with Blue Note Records, and his last two recordings have been pretty much on everybody's trajectory as far as jazz polls as well as jazz radio, and he's been a darling on his live shows. He recently just performed 2 sold-out nights here at the famed Dizzy's Jazz Club here in New York City to rave reviews. And I had a chance to sit down to break bread with him to talk about his brand new recording, to talk about what he's going to bring to the whole Blue Note Records cadre as far as his legacy and his music, as well as we talk about his role growing up as a music healer. Yes, I did say that. He is a music healer. And we will talk about in depth how he's taken music and is how he's reaching people's souls and their lives, as well as we sit down and we'll reflect on some of his important musical influences and how he's been able to formulate not only the great rich tradition of South African folklore and folk music, but incorporate it with Black American jazz music. So sit back, relax, and enjoy highlights of Mr. Nduduzo Makhathini, live here on the Pace Report, reporting from the House of Swing, Jazz at Lincoln Center, here in New York City. You're the first South African recording artist on the famed Blue Note record label. You are now in an elite class of a history of Black American music. You're representing the motherland. How do you feel?
Man, it's truly an honor to start with. I remember getting the email from Don Was, which really reads beautifully, and I know I'm not going to be able to kind of like cite exactly what he said, but the spirit of it was the music that I had sent to him belongs to the Blue Note sound. And for me, that set even beyond belongs to the Blue Note sound, but what is the Blue Note sound? It's this African American story. It's Monk, it's Chain, it's all of these people. So belonging there for me is very important, because those are the teachers, even though I never met them in person, most of them, but those are the teachers that have been speaking to me, to my life on these records. So to form that kind of like prestigious lineage, for me, it feels like a dream still. But also by extension, to create a connection for that to the continent via the Blue Note Africa imprint was always my kind of idea when I got signed to Blue Note. Was like, I am a product of a community. I am a product of a history. And for me, while I'm being highlighted and what I do, but I think by extension I need to highlight the works of my community. So everything is coming full circle. So I'm utterly thankful.
I mean, you're 37, 38 years old.
39, turning 40.
30. Okay. See, I mean, I'm
turning 40.
Okay. See, you still got a lot of history you got a lot of history to make. I mean, the music that you're doing is very important. Now, on the back end of that, how are the people in South Africa taking to this? Because in America, jazz music is on the lower end of the totem pole culturally and spiritually, unfortunately. That's just how it is. In your country, music of all diverse nationalities and different countries, it's celebrated.
It is, man. It is celebrated, and I think we're truly thankful for that. But also, it's just the relationship between peoples and songs. And this is born because historically in pre-colonial moments, people had a very deep relationship to songs. songs, all songs had function. All songs succumb to the calendar. They succumb to a cosmological calendar, meaning if you play a song, there was a very specific set of results that you needed to see. And of course, that's been the relationship during apartheid South Africa, when they were singing songs, these protest songs, they needed to see change. So there's a sense in which in South Africa the relationship between song and change is still very intact. And that's what keeping society very respectful of the very idea of an artist in society, as a seer, as someone that composes change.
That's fantastic. I mean, and actually, you know, the song is all about what you all about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the performance. I saw how the band had to fall in line with what you were doing, but you gave the band a lot of leeway. I mean, the sheet was a beast last night.
Oh man, wait. Everything is coming full circle, man. I mean, seeing big bro Jason Moran walk into the room yesterday was quite something, because I've been listening to Nasheed Ways for the longest time, and the bandwagon and the stuff that they've done with Terrence Martin, and those are like my big bros, you know. Nasheed, of course, you know, is the most humble brother, and when I tell him this, he almost doesn't want to believe it, but actually he's been a big inspiration of my journey, you know.
But Nasheed is one of the kindest, and his dad, it comes from.
Of course.
They say we have an American saying, the apple don't fall too far from the tree.
Yes, we have the same.
Yeah,
we have the same.
It came from Daddy, and and Jason too. Jason has really, in addition to him staying on the band stage, he rolls his sleeves up. Kennedy Center.
Yeah, he does community work.
Yes, he's active. He's visible, and we need more cats like that on the front line.
But that's the thing, man. This is a greater kind of societal work. It's not just about playing the music, but it's about creating homes for the music, and that's what Jason is doing. That's all what we are doing, is creating homes for the music, because music needs a location, it needs place, and I guess that's what Maestro Winton is doing as well for us. I mean, he's doing a lot for me. I mean, he's invited me many times at the Lincoln Center, and he's creating homes for the South African sensibilities of this music, and I think there's a various kind of registers of this home creating, you know. On the one hand, we create like institution, but the bandstand becomes a home as well. Like you say, this democratic approach to it, like where everyone is given space. So we create homes for all the different kind of dialoguings. I think yesterday I spoke about songs as invitations.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's this call and response, which sometimes, I mean, people just generalize on it, but actually it's the basis of African kind of ontology, cosmology, and epistemology. This is how we see the world. We see a call and a response, and that's the relationship between the diasporas and the continent. You know, the jazz has been like coming as an echo to the continent, and we send an echo back. So the transatlantic back then was like this moment of like dislocation, and people were moved aggressively, violently, and later through exile people were escaping Africa and coming. So the going over the Atlantic was not a decision that one made, but I think in post-colonial moments it's beautiful to see how I can decide to go over the Atlantic as a choice, freely. And the brothers, Nasheed was in Cape Town, Nasheed Wace was in Cape Town just the other year. How we do the cross-Atlantic things and dialogues freely at our own will. This is beautiful because it's coming full circle.
problem I'm having with how jazz is being programmed is that they want to put this music in a box.
Yeah.
And you know, God rest his soul, I had an honor many times to break bread with Hugh Masekela.
Oh, beautiful.
And Hugh was outside of jazz music. He did pop, he did world, he did Caribbean, he did a lot of, he did music. He did music. He did music. And the thing that the labels have done, and even radio here, it's just so regimented. And 30 years ago, I saw jazz music, but it was late at night, or we had to have stations, then that program.
Yeah.
How is music
Yeah.
in Africa programmed, or how are you guys programmed to listen to the music?
Man, the various types of music, like you say. It's interesting you should mention the great Masegela. I was just telling a friend 2 days ago that came to thesis that he booked me for the last tour. I didn't know it was his last tour, of course, and I couldn't make it, and I always feel like, oh man. And in that tour, he was presenting this album called No Borders. He was talking about how the borders in the continent are a recent invention. They came with the colonial moment. People used to move freely. But now I'm thinking, so are songs. Songs used to move freely.
Right.
Move freely. But when we implemented the borders, it was for capitalist reasons to control. But also with the songs, we started to do that because we needed to own, someone needed to own this now. So it needs to group, it needs to be defined and blah, blah, blah. But songs have always refused those kind of things. Jazz as well, it has always refused the definition. Some of the greatest teachers always said that was not the term they were going to use because it's all kinds of things, this music. So the programming in South Africa is biased, of course. Jazz still plays on Sundays only, and even those shows are dying slowly. So there is a sense in which jazz is actually on radio, on the frequencies.
And it's sad.
It's sad. It's very sad. It's very sad. This also, my wife wrote a beautiful thesis about the demise of jazz venues in South Africa. So she writes about all of these venues that are closing, but what does it mean for the culture? And she comes with like really deep conclusions on like this subtraction and what does it mean and how we should create new ways, podcasts, stuff like that, towards alternative thinking about space, alternative like the stuff that we're doing now, right? It's like, how do we create this content and create homes for this content? Community and own the content. which was our conversation just now. Right.
And I'm glad we
which
that.
elevates the kind of work that you are doing because it's community work.
It's
ours.
It's ours. We're not racist.
No,
we're not trying to put everybody in these huts. No. I've said this before COVID, and I'm going to carry this to the grave, and that's why I started this. You got to create your own narrative. And as radio and print, definitely print is dying here in America.
Everywhere.
When I came here almost 14 years ago, and I said print is dead, there were a lot of writers that cussed me out, didn't want to, and look where we're at right now.
Yep.
Some of the major jazz publications are about this thick now. Even formats have changed with radio. We have to control and designate a lane for our culture. Period.
No doubt.
Your music, and I saw this last night, there's spiritual jazz, there's straight ahead, there's avant-garde, there's a little bit of all of that, and people gonna see this in the piece. You are really a disciple of the canon of this thing called Black American music.
Man, I'm so thankful, man. This is it.
How? Because I interviewed Azar a little while back. You're on Azar's record. What was it like working with Azar?
He's a good friend of mine. Now in LA, he drove me and we played some duo stuff together. Man,
it's a solid brother.
I just wish I wish the world knew really who he is.
They do.
Yeah, I know,
They do.
but who he really is, man. Like the level of depth
Yeah.
that he has on that horn, post call chain, really needs to be spoken of. You know, we need to, we can't say it enough how important it is to see how he connected from chain to here,
Yeah.
to this moment. Man, I'm thankful to have played with him. The first time I heard him was in the McCoy Tyner's record. And of course, when McCoy Tyner left the Coltrane band, this is the saxophone player that he
Yeah,
worked
that's
with.
right. That's right.
And that's a very important historical fact
Yeah.
that we need. That's what I mean. Like, we need to know this.
Yeah.
We need to
Yeah.
know this, because if we don't know it, we'll regret not knowing it. It's very important. So the work that he does and what he stands for is such at a very high level. And so I invited him in South Africa, and he couldn't believe that people knew who he was. So the whole Pretoria community not only knew his songs, but they danced to his songs.
That's good.
So when he played we played Revelation, he couldn't believe people were singing along to that.
Wow.
I said, yeah, this is the community here. They definitely know. They are aware of your music and the power that is in your music. You know.
You know who I would love. You know what I would love to see you do.
Yeah.
I was watching you play, and I said, man,
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see you, Azar,
Yeah.
Kenny Garrett,
Oof.
Jeff Tain Watts,
Whoa.
and the bassist would be one of the elders. It would
Yeah.
either be Bob Hurst or
Yeah.
Reggie Workman. I would love to see y'all get down.
Yeah.
I can't even fathom what that would even sound like.
And you know, you are bringing the whole modal music school together.
That's right.
Exactly what. That's the whole post chain. That's the chain.
Yeah.
That's the chain.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the chain that we're riding.
Yeah.
That's the chain.
I would just love to see that. That would be.
And all of these people you talk about have made tributes to John Coltrane
That's right.
at various moments.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
And Reggie Workman did play, no?
That's
he
right.
Did.
Yeah.
He did.
And he was on Pharoah Sanders.
Yeah, yeah,
He was on
Yeah.
the Karma record.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I saw and have been seeing and hearing everything that you're doing, man. And is there anything that you want to do that you think that's out there? Because jazz is always about the infinite.
Oof.
It's always about the infinite.
I love that.
And I've always said that because we look at what guys like Cecil Taylor contributed to piano, and we see what guys like Ornette Coleman did to the music. We see guys like who was just really, really out there that had a lot of heart. Eric Dolphy.
He went in.
Yeah, he did. I mean, is there anything
Dolphy.
that you think that you would like to do that you think is just out there?
Man, there's a lot. There's a lot. But just on the socials and communicating with Jason, we've always been talking about this idea of maybe something together. I think that's one of the things that will be.
Oh my goodness.
They would like kind of push to infinity, you know, because there's a poeticness that Moran has that touches me deeply, and I think a dialogue in that realm with him will be very special, and also because we come from teachers that have contributed so much. Andrew Hill, Ibrahim, Mselegu, Taylor, you know, all of these teachers, and somehow, you know, we're composing new kind of voices of piano, but this heritage, this lineage is so important, and it comes through with every phrase we play. And I think Moran has the most well, sophisticated is not even the word, but he has the most profound way of bringing these ancestors into a Moran space. and man, I would like to explore with him.
And you know,
I would really like to.
well, it's funny you say that because he's playing. He did an album with Archie Shepp. In fact, they're playing this summer at the Charlie Parker Jazz Festival. And what you're saying, like I said, the infinite. It's out there. Jazz is out there.
The infinite, man, and I think that's the journey, the infinite. I think Wayne Shorter expresses it the most beautiful way. You know, in most of his interviews, he talks about seeking infinity. Yeah. And I think that's what we're all seeking. I see it as a liminal phase, as a space of not knowing. We are constantly pushing towards not knowing and dropping all the knowledge somehow. Because I think the not knowing is collapsing into a greater knowing of the cosmos. And I think that's where this magic happens. That's where infinity happens. It's the greater knowing of that's beyond the self, but that's in sync with nature and everything. So, and our great teachers knew that. Sandra knew that.
Infinite. He always pushed it. Yeah. He always pushed it. In fact,
I mean, the stats of Space is the Place. He says, you know, there's so many troubles in the world, and we created this world for ourselves.
That's right.
And he was all about creating homes, and the whole idea of a commune was how would we sound if we were to stay together and create this music to infinity.
James Brown was a pioneer of that. Yeah. George Clinton, which is the funk version of Sun Ra. I think he was really Parliament Funkadelic. Yeah. You know, the Brides of... I mean, he honed in on community, but Bootsy did his thing. Yeah. Bernie Royale did their thing. Yeah. Eddie Hazel did their thing. And I'm sorry we left the jazz world and went to the funk world, but that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. There's cross-pollinations, and the movements have similar characteristics.
Yeah.
Beyond the gender, and this is why the whole thing of gender becomes a limitation, because these people were always in dialogues. They were sitting like this, and so they were conceptualizing together. There's a sense in which they were thinking together, and these are products of a people, a time.
Right. everybody about this new recording as opposed to your last recording.
Yeah, so I guess in many ways it's a continuation. There is a sense in which the narratives that are inherent in both records kind of speak to each other. On the one hand, the previous record was speaking about modes of communications, letters from the underworld, and the idea of like the voice of an ancestor and how, what is the way, what is the posture, what is the orientation to hearing that voice. And this album currently deals with what was the cosmology of the ancestor, where are we located. And so the whole idea of Ntu is what brings the African cosmological idea together. It's basically talking about the origins of African peoples and how they moved, and through the catastrophes of slave trade, settler colonialism, apartheid, what are the things that are left? Because of course those projects were to us an erasure. So what are the things that can be erased about a black being, a black cosmology? And so the idea of Ntu is an idea of a vital force. So it's arguing or putting forward the idea that everything has spirit essence. So when all has been taken away, the spirit essence leaves, right? So, and that's found in trees, is found in mountains, water, beings, divinities, orishas. So there is a sense in which that's the outlook that our ancestors left for us as a legacy. And in order for us to make meaningful sounds or any engagements artistically, that world kind of has to be central. So that's why I think of this album as a ritual in a sense that it's connecting the different dimensions, spirit dimension and the physical dimension into one construct. And of course the African view is that of a pyramid, that while we're here, we also are together with the spirits of the living dead, the ancestors, but also the ones to be born. And that's why we have rituals for birth, we have rituals for death, but this vital force, this spirit essence continues across. So that's basically some of the underpinning kind of high level concepts in this album.
It's heavy, it's spiritual, it's truly African. It's home.
Yeah.
And when you were recording this record, you know, we were going through a crazy shutdown, and I know that had to really be. Music is a form of healing, and I told you last night, your last album got me through COVID-19. It was a powerful record, in the sense that sometimes when you listen to people, you want to take your mind off of things. It literally took me to a very another place.
Oh man.
It did. And the performance last night, you know, everybody was saying the very same thing. It's like we're in a surreal moment when we were watching you.
Yeah.
How did COVID change you musically and spiritually?
Oh man, thank you for that question, because I've been thinking about it a lot. I think the first thing was COVID, just in different geographies, exposed the very cracks of each system, how the system was not able to look after people, right? That's the first thing. So for me, it was just like looking through my window and realizing that, oh man, there's someone out there that's living a really difficult reality, and it's accented in these moments. It's exposed. On the other hand, if I close that window, there's a sense in which we're projecting, or if I were to play anything, I was kind of projecting from this kind of stillness, which is, you know, pre-COVID, everyone was moving, we're touring, we're doing things, and, you know, it's kind of loud sometimes. And so there are subtle messages, subtle voices that we're maybe not able to hear. And I think I started to dialogue with those voices quite a bit more.
Me too. Me too. Me too.
And also in those voices realizing how much I actually don't need, you know, how much I can do without, right? Because there's a lot of things that I thought, oh man, I can't do without this, I can't do it without going there, I can't do without, and I realized that there's so much. So, and of course musically, that projecting from a place of stillness is what connected me to Ntu. It's like connecting with essence in a deeper way. And what does it mean for sounds to draw from essence, like from the bottom of our depth, of our being? And that's something maybe that we wouldn't have discovered, that kind of connection. And I was also playing a lot of solo piano, sometimes duets with my wife, because you know, we were there. I was just like, man, we're here together. Let's, you know. I remember on the day of the album launch with Modes of Communications, I was meant to be at Deez's to do the launch. And of course it wouldn't happen. And I remember a couple of days before, Maestro Winton called me and he's like, man, we just have to keep doing it. I was like, man, that's so profound. And this was just like as lockdown was announced, and I was frustrated that I'm not going to go anywhere. And he just said, man, we have to keep doing it. And of course, he assisted me a lot with doing a lot of stuff online, just at home, teaching and stuff, and like supporting me quite a lot. So you started to see also the people that value, the people that care. You started, all of these things became like highlighted. And so on the day of the launch, I just felt, okay, man, I have to do something from here. So told my kids, we have cameras here, we have some lights, we must move stuff here, we move couches and everything. And boom, we set up, we went live, and we're doing the album launch online. And of course, another realization. By the end of the live, we had 30,000 views, and I'm thinking, oh man, at Deez's we wouldn't have had 30,000 people. So there's a thing about like operating from a point of alternativeness, and that's also the true sense of improvisation. When everything else collapses, how are you able to compose yourself into an altered reality?
Right.
And everything from the music to organizational things, logistics was improvised. And so I think I've strengthened my relationship with improvisation, relationship with God in many ways, relationship with my family during lockdown, and also solo piano. I've been playing a lot by myself, you know, so somehow physical strength. I realized that actually you need physical strength as well. I mean, I come from masters like McCoy Tyner who were really physical, you know, so it's like, you know, I started to think about that as well, like the body as an instrument needs to be fit.
Right.
Not knowing that actually I'm preparing to go on tour 3 years later, or 2.5 years later.
talk about solo piano.
Yeah.
And would it be safe to say that you should go in the studio and do a solo piano record now? While you got to strike while the iron is hot.
Brother, another friend of mine in South Africa, his name is Sianda. He's a trumpet player. I just produced his album, and he's been following my journey recently, and he just said the exact same words. Man, this is the time you go in studio and just record that solo piano. It doesn't have to be released now, but yeah. So I have one that I recorded in Berlin on tour last year. So I did a Berlin Fest, and I was doing this tour, and at the end of the tour, the last gig was solo piano, and they recorded it beautifully. So I have that option, but also I'm keen to just go in studio and
do another one.
Yeah, something about like these conversations with self. So I start to see, because I come from a rural background where people really had a deep connection to environment, and out in the wilderness, when people were herding cows, they would have all kinds of solo instruments as companions. So there's a sense in which I'm thinking about solo piano as like a kind of companionship and a way of dialoguing with the self.
Well, that's
at a deeper level.
That's how folk music started.
There we go.
Folk music is really the essence of the environment. A lute, a kalimba,
yep,
and your environment.
Yep. So I'm thinking about solo piano in those paradigms, and of course it's inspired by a lot of what Ibrahim and other people have been doing. You know, how to utilize space and how to compose space a bit more.
You're practicing Sangoma.
Yeah.
And to piggyback what you said earlier, is this is important because Cuban piano players, some of them are part of the, there's a
Yoruba.
religion. Yes.
Yoruba.
Yeah, Yoruba, right. The Yoruba tradition. And spirituality is very, very important to how they play, just like Islam or Catholicism, for anybody that practices their faith.
Of course.
How has that kept you focused and in tune with, one, how you play your music, but two, how you hear the music?
Well, thank you for that question, and your Cuban reference is so accurate, and because Cuban cosmology, or Yoruba, which originates from Nigeria, is very explicit about the hierarchy and the different kinds of divinities. So they are very specific about, like, what is Oshun, so the different gods and the different instruments that pay tribute to those gods. So theirs is very explicit. In South Africa, because there are various articulations of these religious belief systems, so it's kind of difficult to pinpoint in the same way. But I guess this is where my work is really, I think, useful, because the word sangoma, the sa means to be like, or to function similar to. Ngoma means divination, it means the drum, it means song. So a sangoma, if we look at an etymological meaning, it means the one who is song-like, right? And I think for me that's the point of departure, is what does it mean to be a song, to just like be traveling into people's consciousness, and what does it mean to be a visitor? That's what songs are. Songs are these things that come in these moments when we need them, right? But there's a sense in which songs also are carriers of messages. So then we have another word called ukula, which means to be sick. Ukula means to be sick, and the healer functions to disturb that energy of sickness. But ukula also means to carry something towards maturity. So what are sangomas then? Sangomas are the ones that are able to take all the sicknesses of society, because they have the ability to carry that. But what does it mean as well? They have to be in a constant ritual to let it out. So that's like really the whole idea of healing. And for me, healing is not only of the body, but healing is an idea of a kind of in-tuneness. So healing is very closely related to a worldview. So the world in itself is perfect, but the need for ritual is because we understand that the environment can go out of tune, causing earthquakes, becoming aggressive, human beings similarly doing the most aggressive things.
Like we saw with COVID.
Yep. Yeah, right. So then the healing is an alignment of Ntu, because our essence is that which is total, which is complete, right? And we go out of tune and we fall sick, we go out of tune, and all of these kind of things happen. So healing then, in short, is an alignment of essence, right? So if sounds are a way of bringing us into this ritual space where our essence is aligned, then that's healing.
How old were you when you found out that you had this ability, this power, to not only just perform it in your music, but also family, friends?
Yeah.
How old were you? Did you start noticing this?
Yeah, so like most South Africans, I come from a Christian family, and the dilemma of it is that of course the Christianity came with the settlers, and there was a sense in which the African peoples were not seeing themselves in the scripture, or this is how it was framed. The word was framed such that it was a god of somebody else that you had to kind of obey. So the problems of that was the Christianity came to South Africa and discontinued the greater part of the indigenous spirituality, the modes of spirituality. So it was my mother, for instance, didn't believe in the whole Sangoma thing because she was Christian, and she said this was demons. We need to pray for you, and I respect that. She's still like that, and that's my mom. So when I was, I think I must have been between 9 and 12, I got the gift. It comes through a dream, but something really deep happens in that dream. Everything that happens in a dream impacts the body. So in a dream, I saw these elders who were carrying these brooms and stuff, and they had this bowl that had, a liquid thing that they were spreading and stuff, and everywhere it touched me, I woke up with blisters in real life, like blisters, serious. And I was like, it can't be true. And from a young age, I started thinking, what is the distance between dreams and lived experience? Because this particular dream collapsed that gap. So I started saying there must be something, and my mom was like, no. And I visited my grandmother. It was during school holidays, and when she saw this, she's like, you have a gift for healing. I was like, how do you know? Then she took me to another healer, a seer, who told me exactly what needed to happen. And of course I couldn't take the gift then because I was still under my mother's supervision. So, but it troubled me a lot. And of course when I went to tertiary, I had forgotten about it. And it only comes in 2012, this epiphany. I started just seeing everything. When I was with people, I was seeing all types of things. My sight was partially lost at some point, and yeah, so I had to go through various rituals, and that's how I put out the album Listening to the Ground, which is basically saying, as we walk on this earth, there are constant messages that our ancestors left for us. So what does it mean to sight these from beneath our feet? What are the things that we are sighting? So walking is knowing, which is part of the Nguni way. So we say Ikhambi ukubona, which means we know by walking, we know by experiencing things. So that's really been the journey, and of course, my family has accepted this, and it's we see it as a blessing. It's a huge responsibility because I almost see beyond what I need to be seeing, and sometimes it's painful because you can foresee things that not only good, that are bad, that are coming. On the last album, I spoke about the coming of sicknesses, and that was the first single that I released, but it was recorded in 2018 and was released in 2019. It speaks about it says it's a long walk that we have to go, and there's sicknesses that are coming and we need spirit intervention. That was the first single, and boom, COVID-19 hits 2020. So there's a prophetic thing about this music, this prophetic word, so it's a huge responsibility because also you seek clarity. Am I translating this correct to society? And like preparing for a concert, am I ready to, when the word comes, am I ready to be honest and be true to the word? And it comes through the sound, but sometimes it comes in the actual word, and I just start speaking. And yeah, so it's quite a deep responsibility, but also a very important function for this sound.
Shabaka Hutchins. I am very, very familiar with his work. I love what he's doing over in the UK. His projects are a myriad of a lot of things. Caribbean, African, jazz. I love, he's so music forward. And you're part of his band, his ensemble. First and foremost, what's it like playing with him? And two, musically, how did you guys bond?
Well, man, it's a beautiful story. I was out in Cape Town doing a duet, and in this festival that was really presenting this out there sounds, like music that was really out there. Very unusual configurations, and so I was doing a duet, and Shabaka came to see it, and after that he came to me. He's like, "Oh man!" So I didn't know about him, of course. Then I was like, and he said, we started having this conversation about music and place for music and society, and then he said, "I'm also playing a duet later," and so I came to see his duet, and we exchanged contacts, and then so I invited him. I was doing a gig in Lagos. It's called the Lagos Jazz Series. That's the first time we ever played together. So he came to play in my group, and Zolake, who was the bass player yesterday, was part of that group. So I brought all of them to Nigeria. And from that moment, he just wanted to have a relationship with South Africa. And he came, and he's recorded on my album called Itilongo, which was, I can't remember what year. And a couple of days later, I recorded with the Ancestors, which is a thing that we were conceptualizing, and he was asking about all the musicians in South Africa. I was like, there's that cat, there's that, and we put that together. So it's just been that kind of journey, and he wrote liner notes on my last album.
The last album, right?
Yeah. Right. But man, I mean, it's just like a good friend of mine, and we constantly check into each other's thinking. We do these lives on Instagram every now and again where we just like sharing thoughts, and we share readings. We're interested in similar things. He's very interested in African cosmology, so you know, and I'm steeped in that. Like that's my world. That's what's central in my sound. So there are these cross pollinations, and when I was in LA, actually he came to visit me, and we started playing. And we played for like an hour because he's interested in these flutes now.
Right.
And
I think he personified what Train did when he started the ascension mode. He really kind of
He's on a serious journey, and so for me it's a thing with generations. You know, there's something that we're seeking as a generation, and he's an important member of that process of revealing what defines this moment, what defines this generation. But also I'm thinking about Logan Richardson, who I think is also there at the forefront of the people that are defining what this generation stands for. And I'm, you know, for me it's truly an honor to walk with them, because we are all in different geographies speaking the same gospel. It's like the brotherhood of Kemet, you know. It's you know, that's what they say about the brotherhood of Kemet. It's all these brothers that spread through the continent, preaching the same gospel in different places at different times. But there was a similar point of departure, which was Kemetic knowledge about brotherhood. So there's a sense in which this is a manifestation of a similar thing. We are the seekers. We go and you know, and we come together and we're like, okay, this is what we've done for now, and then we spread again. So these are my brothers, really, in a deep way. They are sisters as well, part of this movement. I'm fortunate to have Oma Gugu at home with me, but a very important member of this society as well. You know, there's Sister Esperanza and all the people that are seeking similar things. So I see myself, Shabaka, Logan, and everybody as part of a movement that has to do something really important.
That's very important you say that, because I've seen this, and again, I think I told you this earlier. I don't think today's music, via hip hop, R&B, it doesn't have an urgency and a form of healing like it used to have. I mean,
precisely.
And I'm wondering, one, is it because of the lack of training of this next generation of musicians that are coming up, or has the commercial end of it just ruined the artistic value of what they're trying to put out?
It's the later, precisely what you say. Yep. It's being dragged into, or reduced instead, to entertainment. And one of my teachers, Zim Nawana, who played with Nasheed Waits and William Parker and Matthew Shipp, was a South African saxophone player, said, ours is not entertainment, it's inner attainment. So the healing only comes when it's inner attainment, because it's the inner work.
Right.
So the inner workings is really the interest here. And that's what we need to conscientize younger musicians about, like the inner work. So that's what Chain stood for. That's what Pharoah Sanders lives for to this day. It's the inner man. He plays the first note and he takes you in already. Yeah. And because he's done it for so many years, I saw him at the at the Winter Jazz Fest, I think like 2019 or 2018. I only remember him going like this, and the next thing, the gig was over. But I only remember one moment. Only. That was it. I think my eyes were closed or whatever. But that's the power.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report, reporting live here at the House of Swing, Jazz and Lincoln Center here in New York City. I'd like to personally congratulate and thank the incomparable Nduduzo Makhathini for his time. Make sure you support his brand new Blue Note Records release, In the Spirit of Ntu, now available on iTunes, Amazon.com, and Blue Note Records. Also, people, please support his upcoming tour, late summer as well as early fall. For more information, visit him on social media by way of Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to personally thank Miss Gail Boyd for arranging my time with Nduduzo. Also, I'd like to personally thank the staff and management at Dizzy's for their warm hospitality. As always, people, please like, share, and subscribe to my videos here on YouTube and Vimeo, as well as visit my website, thepacreport.com, for my weekly column, as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.